Okay, so as you seen in a previous video, I got a JCR front bumper. Unfortunately, again, I lost a bunch of footage, so me putting this thing on, which wasn't exactly the Super Bowl, so it's not that exciting. But here we are, it's all bolted up. Definitely not a direct fit, even though the website advertises it as a CJ, YJ, TJ option to buy it. It goes on to CJ7, but be prepared to do some modifications. And again, I'm putting an aftermarket bumper onto an aftermarket frame, the throttle down customs frame. So whether or not that had anything to do with it, I would have thought throttle down would put the holes where the factory bumpers would require. So, you know, it is what it is, not a big deal. If you got a drill and a plasma cutter, you can do anything. So I'll show you what I had to do here to get this thing to fit in a bit. The other thing I've got, my Smittybilt 9.5K XRC winch. Great deal. I couldn't believe I could pick up a 9.5 winch for, you know, under $500 Canadian. So again, I think I got it on sale for like $329, which is probably about 250 bucks American. I haven't tried it out yet because it's not wired up. I still got to do that. But it looks pretty good, solid. The reviews online, nobody said anything bad about it, so I'm anxious to try it. I'm sure I'll get something stuck at some point this winter that could use a winch. I went with the mid-length bumper. They make a full-length one and a stubby. Obviously the full length if you're interested in protecting your whole fender, and then you go with that. To me it was just looks. That's all. The stubby, obviously if you're rock crawling, then you want to go with a stubby so that nothing's in the way of your tires. Again, for me it was just looks. I'm not rock crawling. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, so like I said, I've got the provisions for the lights on the mid-length, which is great because I already had a bunch of these sitting around. I bought for my tractor years ago that I never used. I think I got 8 of them or something. They're a direct bolt in. There's a platform inside with a hole already drilled. It's an oval hole, so you can slide them in and out a little bit. And yeah, they'll go right in there. They do sit a little bit far back. I'll make a video when I go to put them in anyways. But yeah, I think they were $4 a piece off of Amazon. And I got a bigger one that I was going to put on the cab of my tractor. It never ended up on there. It had about 1 inch of dust. And there's already holes in my fair lead. I just got to adjust this and that can go right there. Again, I don't know if I'm going to put it on or not. But hey, it's an option. The holes are there and I got one, so maybe I'll put it on just so it looks super cool. Lights are always a good thing. One thing that is kind of a pain in the butt is that the winch plate is built right into the bumper. So you have to put your winch on before you mount your bumper because you can't get at the bolts later on. Same goes for the fair lead. Try to get the nuts on afterwards is a bit of a trick, but you can get in there with a wrench. It's just a bit of a fight. There are access holes underneath so you can get at your wiring, which is a good thing. Okay, so there's the bottom bolt on the bumper. You can see it fits right in front of the spring shackle, and like I can't even get my finger between there. There's that little bit of room. And you don't have a lot here either. So this is probably not the one you want to go trying to elongate or modify to make. You don't get a whole lot of wiggle room. So like I said, I just went ahead and bolted that one up, and then I modified the top bolts based on that. Okay, so here's our top bolts, and you can pretty much see our dilemma right away, how they don't line up. The back bolts here, obviously I could get at to drill a hole. That wasn't a big deal. The front one, you can't get a drill bit in because of the shape of the bumper. You have to go from underneath, obviously, because this is in your way. So I ended up having to use a plasma cutter to get at that. I mean, there's other ways you could have gone about it. I guess a Dremel with a high-speed bit would have went at it pretty good, but I had a plasma, so I used it. And that was really the only modification needed. It's a bit annoying that you have to modify it to make it fit. And then the other oddity, this oval port, which one would assume would be to get access to the bolts, should be over here. You can see where I got it traced out. I almost cut it at one point. I was getting frustrated. Would make more sense to me if they'd left that in and just notched out here, but that's the way they build them. I don't know, it doesn't really serve a purpose. You can't get at anything from there. There's, you see, you can't see the bolts enough to get anything in there. Okay, and this is the easy side to get at because you have room here. This side, with your motor, you can't hardly even see the bolts. All right, they're there, but good luck getting at them. It took a bit of work, I'll tell you. It was frustrating. Okay, so here's my rear bumper. This was a much cheaper option, and I actually had a lot more fun with this one. This is also from JCR. This is their do-it-yourself bumper. Basically, and this is unfortunate, I lost all the video of me building the damn thing, but basically you get a bunch of steel that's been laser cut with little tabs in it, and you just bend the bumper and then do all your seam welding afterwards. Okay, so when I say cheaper, I mean like 4 times cheaper. Okay, so obviously it's just a square bumper, nothing fancy. It's got some small cutout wings here that make it kind of look a little more polished and finished. Again, for a rock crawling option, you probably want to cut the ends off of this thing, and because it does stick out almost to the edge of the tires. So for my purposes, I think this is probably the best option for a good solid bumper. Again, it comes notched out for jack points for a high lift jack. This one will go TJ, CJ, YJ, and it's a direct fit. There's a mount in the back that you just turn one way or the other when you weld it in to line up to your back cross member. 8 bolts, holds on really well. The trailer hitch is an option. You don't have to go with it. They supply you with a square piece of tubing drilled out already for your trailer hitch pin. I found when I mocked it up that it was just a little too stubby for me. I wanted it to stick out a little bit more, so I went to the auto parts store there and picked up this. It's actually a receiver adapter, but it's the same size, a little longer, and it's got the reinforced edges on it, a little more access to the pin, and a lot more length. So I just felt that was a little bit better option. So I can put a pintle hitch in there or whatever kind of hitch I need for the farm equipment. Again, it's reinforced on the inside. There's a bracket. I wish I hadn't lost all my footage because building this thing was quite fun. In all, it probably took about 2.5 hours to build this thing, and that includes some cooling time in between because it gets pretty darn hot when you're doing all this welding. So I seam welded the entire thing. I did a bit here, then I went to the other side and did some and alternated where I was welding when I closed it all in with the arc welder. I did get a little overzealous at one point. I was welding a seam here, and you know, you get welding and you just start welding, you stop thinking about it, and I heard a pop, and I looked up, and one of the little bend tabs on top had popped up and it started to arc. I just used a C-clamp, pulled it down and tacked it back in. So it wasn't a big deal. If it's something that you don't notice and you just keep welding, you're probably going to end up with this bubble in your bumper. But yeah, so make sure if you're going to do one of these, you're alternating where you weld or give it time to cool. The recovery points, I welded inside and out. Same for the trailer hitch. There's lots of material and space with there's a reinforcement, like I said, inside. So there's tons of welds in there. Same for the mounts, where it mounts to your cross member. I welded them in and out. It's kind of tricky to get in behind, but you know, a little more weld is always preferable on something like a mounting point, especially if you are going to be pulling trailers. Yeah, I just finished it off with some flat black paint. I did not put POR 15 on it. I figure I'll do that in the spring. All in all, that I think was the best $170 I spent in a while. pretty good bumper for the money. And again, I don't think I could buy the steel, cut it, and weld it for the same price. I not here anyways. I mean, if you're closer to the steel supply maybe, but up here I would have paid premium price on the steel, and I would have cost me more to do the exact same thing. This is basically what I was going to build anyways. They make a do-it-yourself front one. I just didn't like it. It looked a little too plain, didn't have the winch mounting and stuff, so that's why I went with the better one up front.